Okay, let's move on to our peonies. So we'll do a little bit of pencil sketching to warm up and get a line going. And then I want to draw this in pen. So we can do it either first do the pencil sketch, leave that, make a second pencil sketch, and then make ink or ink it. Or the second pencil sketch, those of you who feel you want to try this out, just ink directly. Don't bother drawing in pencil first. I have found that drawing in pencil often takes longer and you second guess yourself. And in any case, you're going to draw exactly the same line in pen. Because it's a flower, it doesn't matter. A little bit here or there, the lines shifting doesn't make it look too bad. The other advantage of drawing in pen is you think before you draw, knowing that you're not going to erase, so you tend to draw a lot more carefully. Oh. So like we did the rose, we did it. Yeah? The structure of the peony is also pretty much the same. You will have some petals which are in the foreground, some in the background, and then some being overlapped. So let me just share this image with you. One of the flowers I've shared is not a peony, it's a pea flower, I think. It's a very beautiful flower.
The colors are beautiful.
So this one, we start with the center, we only see half the center, we only see part of this petal. But these two petals are properly seen. So this one, you see the entire petal, no overlaps, and this one. So these are good to start with. Now, when you're making a pencil sketch, you can also make something like this. You can create a structure and say, okay, within this circle, I can make, I do a vertical, horizontal. Where does everything sit? So you have one petal that comes, you can literally draw all of these. You can draw this 11 o'clock to 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And in the beginning, all these shapes help us a lot. So you know this line is going to come from here to here. So it's just a part of how much of the circle are we using. Here it's less than half. Hello? This thing is this new thing that they've started, Zoom. So I mark the half point of all four sides for additional information. Once you have this, then you can use the same information for other stuff, like from the center, where does the remaining or the rest of the petals start? How far do they go? Oh, there's one here, and then there's one over here. So I'm going to share this image right now. Maybe it's not very clear. I'll put it on the. So now you can see these invisible lines. You can see the circle. You can see that there is some concentricity here. So this is the circle. You have the internal bulb somewhere. So either you go with concentric circles and see how the internal bulb fits. It's not exactly in the center. Or you take that circle and see where the circle fits and then draw the other petals around it. Either ways is fine. And you can also get another larger circle going. So this is what we do when sketching. Very often people get a little confused with why do this whole sketch when you're going to make the final illustration, and sometimes also confused with what to see in a sketch or for making of the sketch. So let me share these images with you so you can keep going back and forth.
Aditi ma'am, I just have a question.
Yeah.
So now we have these systems and we see a picture. So in the
Yeah.
previous times when we don't have this computer and all, so if we have to draw, how would like as an artist, the people who draw, how would they think of that, where should I place, like we drew three circles now, so how would they imagine that one? Would it be that like you have a picture maybe in a magazine and then you try to do some sketching over there and then try to replicate, or maybe because I think if I see in real and then I have to copy, then it's little difficult. I mean, how to
Correct.
map that thing.
It's exactly the same. It depends on what tools you use. So in the past, they would have this grid. Yeah, say I'm making a still life. I would make a either 9 by 9 grid. So I would make a rectangle of the proportions of my painting and then divide it into three equal parts vertically and horizontally. Or I can take a square and maybe make it like a 6 inch by 6 inch or 8 inch by 8 inch. And then there would actually be a stand on which I would place this scale and I would observe my painting or my still life through that frame. So today, or even in the past, they have done this on glass. So you can draw lines on glass, so it's not strings, or you just make a frame and put it on strings, and then you see. So at every point, and often I think there would be a point where you would place your chin, so you know exactly what your view was. So imagine I have this. I see once, I start sketching, and then suddenly there's a shift, then everything will move. So there's like if you've been to an optometrist place, they will check your eyes. You'll put your chin over there, so there's no other way you can look at it. That is the view you see, and that is the view you can draw. So now, because of all these tools, you can actually draw on it and check it out. But you can do the exact same thing when you see a real flower. So I don't have any real flowers over here. But what can I show you? Let me come up with something. So whatever you are observing, spend a lot of time in the observation. And first you break it down into the easy things that you can see and understand. Once you see that, then you draw that out. Based on that, you start seeing the other things also differently. It's almost like solving a very complex problem. I'm sure all of you must have had this. Or it may not even be a problem. Say you're hosting a party for 20 people. You would hopefully, if you've done this a lot of times before, you will not do the most complicated thing first. If you're doing it smart, you will get rid of all the small things and say, okay, let me just put the dishes done, this, that, what the other. So whatever you know has finite time, you know how long it's going to take, you finish it off. It's just about clarity. What you can see clearly, you finish it off. And then based on that, you know how much time you have and you can tackle the next problem. So when you are looking at a plant, a tree, maybe even a scene, identify the one thing and see in the context of the whole picture how big it is and draw it. And then that becomes the first object and scale based on which you draw everything else. So I'll show you now. Now from a photograph, it's going to be about 50% of of the level of difficulty we would have in real life. But the process is pretty much the same.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, I've shared all the images. Oh, for some reason I can't see my earlier. Okay, so this same pink flower that we have, when we are sketching it, first visualize it on paper. Draw the medium sized circle. You know, the petals are going to be this large. In many cases, you might not even need to draw anything else. Based on this circle itself, you know the shape of the petal. You can start seeing it already. Then from here, you will say, okay, this is how my next line goes down. It's not along this edge. There's a dip inside. Those are the things you need to notice. Come down. And now these two are going to give you direction for everything else. At what point coming down this petal to the next one? Here, there could be a single petal, or these could be two different petals. This could be one, this could be a second one. But if you can't see the detail, don't bother imagining it. Just draw what you see. Very often in flowers that we are unfamiliar with, you don't even know the structure. So don't don't try to create something. It looks awful. Oh, this has to be bigger. The edges of the flower are not smooth, but I'm making them smooth. The ridges at on the petals are so fine that if you try to make them, I'm afraid you're going to land up making a very zigzag line. So it's going to look like this. And it's absolutely not worth the trouble. So make a line that is not perfectly smooth, a little undulating is fine, but don't bother making that detail. In order to make that detail, we will have to make that this flower maybe what, 4 or 5 times the size or 10 times the size. Oh, my shape has gone completely wrong. Now, had I been doing this in pen, I would have had no choice. I would have just have to live with the flour that I made. That's why a warm up always helps. Slightly better. Once you finish the sketch, just part of it you should try and shade as well. We always can do with a little help and practice in shading. Though the flower is really light, you will see some shadows in a few areas. Those are the ones that you can replicate. Where the color is very light, you needn't even bother shading. So while you're shading, some of your shapes can be reviewed. Like in my case, this petal has come in too close to this edge when actually it should finish somewhere over here. Okay, how is the drawing going? Any comments? Do you need any help? Now, here's one trick that I use often. If you look at this cavity, you can get a sense of shape by just focusing on the dark patch. And you'll notice that that has its own shape. That's the negative space between the petals. So if the petals get confusing to draw, then just illustrate the silhouette of the shape that they create. And you're halfway there. And this way you can keep checking that what you're doing is also accurate. Okay, is everyone ready to move to pen? You can choose the same flower or you can choose another flower. The next one we see from the top. So here it's a little more complicated. Okay, for some reason my WhatsApp on the laptop is cooperating. So I'm going to just share all these images one more time. But you can ignore them. They're exactly the same. It's just for me. It's somehow not updating my WhatsApp on the laptop. Okay, so just to keep it simple, let's try painting the same one. Now that you've drawn it, it'll be easier. Drawn it once, it'll be easier for you to redraw in pen. And if this is not a test, so at any point, if you feel you want to rely on the pencil, please go to the pencil. These are reasonably complicated shapes, and you don't want to be in a world of misery just because you were overconfident. So let's say in this case, if we start off with the circle like we did, it gives at least some starting point and some guidance. And then move to the pen. If you want, you can go to the earlier picture where I've given you these markers of where the petals begin, how far they go, and use that to your advantage. I'm using a 0.2. That's a good enough size for to create a nice delicate line. If you use a much thicker brush or thicker pen, chances are that your line will look too heavy. I'm making the line deliberately wobbly on one side and smooth-ish on the other. But it's not like one smooth part of the circle. That on a flower looks very artificial. Keep your line strong. Don't second guess. So if you stop between lines, very normal and natural. This is how you can stop. See, like this is a very small petal here. I'll run my line in the air and then I will draw that line once and for all. So now if I want to draw the petal shape over here, you have one petal like this, one part of the petal, then another one going slightly higher, then a third part coming low and ending somewhere over here. So once I've drawn this, then I can place my pen and then complete the line. If you are placing the pen and then looking up, you will just leave a very dark mark, and very often your pen might shake and you will make unnecessary lines which you'll be unhappy with. So first I'll draw the petal over here because I have one shape that comes like this. Then I have a shape from here. So this is how I'm breaking up a large petal shape. Draw it in batches. Then I have an S curve, a larger S curve, and keep an eye out on your end point so you don't overshoot. Now I can see that one of these petals has become really wide, so the shape is a little warped. But it's like now I've committed to this to paper, so I can't look back and regret. Do make the leaves also this time, so we can paint them too. Just the flower looks a little insufficient. Being very odd. Okay. Once the drawing is done, please erase all the pencil marks that you made because this is a very light flower and you don't want it to the pencil marks to make it dull. Okay, do you all need a minute or two to complete the pen illustration? I won't start painting till you're done with that. Okay, shall we start painting? How ready is everyone? Let me know if you need more time. I
1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute.
see. Yeah. As you can see, I can do lots of time pass. Okay, let's see. Ritika, you were showing it. Okay, let me do it. Okay, all right. Yeah, this is also looking okay. Very good. Okay, all right. Have a set of these letter stamps that I've been wanting to use for a while. But now I don't know where I kept them very safely. Oh yeah, found them. These are something I found in Bangkok and absolutely love them. Uh, letter stamps. I think now you get them in lots of stores here also. So just to give some variety. I don't know.
Aditi, can you see this?
Ah, nice. Yes. Good. Okay, I'm just going to prepare for that stamping later. Susan and Zai, you need a minute? I can wait.
Just 1 minute. I'm just doing the leaves.
Yeah.
Not looking very proportionate because I went in with a pen directly.
That's okay. That is part of the struggle. But you know, the sooner you start painting directly or drawing directly with pen, the easier the lines will become.
No, I agree. And what happens is then you at least attempt. There is the big problem of not attempting because who's going to do it in pen and then pencil? The pencil and then pen.
Ah,
Aditi?
yeah. Ah, nice. Looking good. Good. So everybody has made the same amount of errors in judging spaces. सब लोगों का average would be the same, I think. Ah, nice. Very good. Looking good.
What's the error, Aditi?
Oh, it's
Proportions. Everyone's proportions. Even my proportions have gone a little wider. In some places the petal is in the wrong place. This is bound to happen, and it's almost natural also. And I don't think we should think too much about it.
My flower has
Let's
required
just,
extra petals.
Extra petals? So that is also
Yeah, because there was
possible.
very obvious gap.
unlike human faces, Alka, it's so much of a relief to do. Say the portrait of a flower, the flower is not going to look
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the flower does not have any problem.
yeah.
Okay. Now for the painting bit. So I want to demonstrate first, and I want you to just observe. Don't paint with me. So far we've done some kind of loose painting of flowers, and we can do the same with this also. But I'd like to show you a slightly more complicated and advanced painting technique, because that requires a lot of practice also, and the sooner you know where you have to go, when you're even doing loose painting, you're paying attention to some techniques that you need to focus on and strengthen. So normally when we would just do loose painting of this flower, we would create a wash and then just drop in some color in a few places. So let me try and do that for you. Another quick class. So don't draw this. It's just for me to quickly draw and show you how this looks. Now I'm going to draw this in quicker strokes also, so they will be even less exact, but they will create some style or just loose line feel. So you can see how these lines are a little different, a lot more casual than the lines that I've drawn above. Here the shapes are one even wonkier. But what I want to show you is the difference between when we paint casually, and I don't want to just show it in theory. I want you to see how the outcome is. Okay, so for this loose painted flower, I can take match the color. Here we have obviously a crimson. And you could add just a little bit of gamboge or orange to keep it vibrant, but very little so that you don't change the intensity of the crimson itself. If I were to do a casual painting, this is how I would do it. With wash, I would just apply this wash, spreading the color very lightly in a few areas and then dumping deeper colors in a few places, leaving some sections unpainted completely so that I can get a higher contrast. And this is how you would do some, this is how we would create adequate drama, depth. But you would see brush strokes, you would see um, very sharp edges, and here it's like let's enjoy the watercolor and how watercolor works. Let me add that yellow in the center. That will look nice. Okay, so I can do a couple of more layers in this, add more shapes, smoothen out some areas. But in a sense, you will see this as very casual illustration. Now in this flower on top, I want to show you how you can make it look almost like the photograph. So we are going to tackle one petal at a time. You have to become very comfortable with mixing colors and arriving at the same shade every time. So
Oh,
let's say we take two petals over here. And I start applying it just like the general rule is pulling it downwards so that I can get a deeper color towards the bottom. But I will not intrude into the next space because I want to keep this border uh, I'll get to the word. Okay, now I've left a little gap over here because right at this point, I want to add a second color and make the end deeper. And I'm wiping the brush, taking a little bit of water and just checking that it's not too wet. And I'm going to spread the other edge outward to make it lighter. So the process here is very refined and it is all about consistency. So you need to know what shade you're making, how much of paint you have in the brush, and at what stage you need to put in wet, and what stage you need to put in wet on dry, and a good control over the brush. So this way you can start building the petal up. There will be stages where you'll be required to add a completely contrasting color, or maybe like a blue or green or something, or even grays, like somewhere over here. So in this petal, what I would do is leave a few highlights. From the bottom, there's a slight glow, so we leave that. And then part of it, again, I will just wet only. So there is always some color, a wet brush. And I will use that to smooth the lines in between. So what you need here is to be able to see the color in isolation, not as part of a flower, but whatever shade you see in front of you. So this could be the wrinkles on a skirt. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So this could be a skirt, this could be somebody's skin, this could be maybe leather, whatever. It has to be seen for only the color and the texture that it represents. I'm using a number 10 brush, but I have very little paint in the brush. So I'm constantly controlling how much paint I have. I'm painting this layer by layer, also petal by petal. So I'm not going to finish the petal in one shot. I'm going to add one layer at a time. Here I'm going to add a little more crimson. Okay, so here's another thing. I keep making more and more color like that. I'll just keep it over here so you can get an idea. I want to add a little extra color on the base. My earlier color has dried. Wipe, wash. So don't try to do musty at this point. Here it's nice, it's blended very nicely. So I'm pressing the brush down and waiting for this to merge. Here now, because something like that has happened, I can just take water and go over it again. But it's only a sheen and I have to wait till all the color dislodges on all these edges. It will dislodge if you just give it some time. See, it's already gone from here. And at this point, I can then make alterations.
Aditi, how do you prevent that cauliflower-like effect from happening?
It's reduce the amount of paint in your brush. Cauliflowers happen when you have too much water. So here I will see some cauliflowers here. Okay, I will show you cauliflower. When you overload your brush, I will make one cauliflower over here and show you. So this is the application. You have so much pigment in your brush that you can almost see, can you visualize a dome over here? That your pigment is all floating. Now this is the base, okay? As it is, this is not going to dry fast. And when it does dry, all the pigment is going to go towards the edges. So if something like that happens, you know this sometimes only when you touch that pigment to paper. Let me see, I'll paint this whole thing. And you can tell that, Adi Bapre, this is too much. Wipe your brush and wherever you need to reduce, just hold the brush very gently on top of that area and absorb the paint. Just with capillary action, the additional pigment gets absorbed in your brush. At one point, when you lift the brush up and no more pigment is going in, you need to wipe the brush and repeat this process again. Now, if you can see, I'm just touching the tips of my brush. I'm not pressing the whole brush down, and take it slow. There is so much liquid over here that this whole thing can be absorbed very easily. And at least problem number one is fixed. You are not going to get any cauliflowers here. Now, the second problem is, have you dried this so much that you can't add the second layer, which you can apply in one corner and see there's a good chance that you have a little bit of humidity left, hydration left to insert the second color at the same time. Fortunately, we have some kind of
Told.
little
Told.
so you can do this and still get away with it. Okay, so here the reason that I do very little of this in class is because it can be very intimidating, and I'm sure all of you would just run away if this is the quality of painting we are required to do at all times. After this, when you are comfortable with over here, you get to play around with so many consistencies that it becomes you can at least you can start identifying the places where you get those cauliflowers, for example. And then you know that I want to avoid this when I come here. Okay, so today what I want you to do with this flower is focus on consistency alone. We want just a very light consistency. We don't want too much water. The consistency you are aiming for are is one where you just apply paint and it appears as a sheen against light. And you do no more than about an inch of this, and then you dip your brush in the color again so that you can keep this whole space well hydrated, so that if you need to add the next color, and now in this case I'm going to add a little bit of purple along the edge, you can still get a nice merge. Okay, this is the second color. So consistency. Second is speed, slow down. This technique is not about quick watercolor. If you sense that there is a problem, slow down, just breathe through it. We can always dislodge the paint in layer 2 or layer 3 and rework it. Okay, do you want to give it a shot?
The casual look also looks very nice, Aditi.
It does, yeah. So this is very much like Chinese painting.
Yeah.
They do mostly brushwork, brush manipulation. So you get this effect. And I'm all for this. Even over here, you can create lots of interest by changing colors, by adding maybe an unexpected blue or purple, adding this kind of depth. So in the casual painting also, at any point, if you feel like it, you can make it more refined. But I've really come to enjoy this whole capricious nature of watercolor, that you don't even realize what it's doing, and it creates such lovely effects that I don't want to overcorrect. Maybe I can add a few lines or strokes, but I want to keep them very organic. So less structured, more brush manipulation. And I feel I want to add something unexpected every time. When you're painting adjacent petals, please wait till the first one dries. Huh? You won't even notice that it's wet sometimes. After you finished a few petals, just let me have a look. There's one more thing that I can then tell you what to do.
Preeti, can you see this?
Huh. Yeah. I think you still have more pigment in your brush. You can
Okay.
reduce the amount of pigment you have.
Okay.
Okay, so one more thing that you can do here, after you painted a little bit, uh, maybe say one layer or even two layers, and then you still want to add some depth to certain petals, like this one, the first one that we did. I've got some cauliflower edges, but I'm going to let that be. I'm not going to change that. But I want to add more depth, and I might also want to change color here. So in this case, I want to use very little pigment. So I'm going to draw a line over here to show you how light that pigment is. And using or taking advantage of the transparency of watercolor, I'm going to make this texture or color very gradually with a slightly flattened brush. And my pigment can become lighter and lighter. And I can keep adding more and more layers. Wherever it is darker, it will pick up more color. Wherever it is, where it is light, it won't pick up as much color. So I dipped my brush in the paint just once. And I have created this kind of depth. Okay, let me show you one more time. Here's my pigment. It's very dry. There's hardly any water in it. I'm starting from the darkest corners and I'm going into from the light to the dark so I can press it in. This is a very delicate operation. And this is what takes some amount of practice. So here towards the left edge, you will notice I am getting sharp shapes. And I don't want those sharp shapes. So I can keep doing this. The color is so light and there's hardly any water that I won't get streaks. But I'll keep getting this sharp edge. So I will wipe the brush. And whatever residual paint I have, I continue to use that. And I get a nice shade going. And I have not dipped my brush in more paint after that first one. Now suppose I want to add some, maybe a bluish color over there again. Let's say I take this purple. Look at how dry it is. And I also have to test that it's not too strong. No, no, no. Wipe again. See, it's about just this light. So this color would give me more control and I won't have dark patches suddenly. When I feel comfortable, I can deepen the color a little bit in the darker areas. And I can keep changing, shifting color constantly to get exactly the right shade I want. Often in a picture like that, you start off with one shade and then in some places you get like a blue, some places there's oranges, some places like over here, there's a very vibrant crimson. So I need to keep that vibrancy and I might consider adding a gamboge to that crimson just to translate vibrancy. Even an orange would do. but I cannot take too much pigment. So I'll wash the brush and then I will just take a little bit over here. Applying it one tiny brush stroke at a time. Wipe the brush, smooth out the edges. So I get this nice highlight over here. And I can go over this whole petal one more time in the same manner. Once this dries, I'll make one more layer of pink over here. In the meantime, this inside part of the flower is fairly dramatic. So I will paint the left edge is fairly dark. So I'll drop some pigment there. Wipe the brush and spread that edge. So even in such a tiny space, don't put a flat color. Put a slightly deeper color towards the left edge. Because that little dark to light really looks nice. So here it's dried completely. I'm taking a little more pink and going over this one more time. So there's a lot of water here, but I'm going to spread it with a damp brush. The brush is wiped up. Bring it all the way to the end. And then make sure that this edge is still hydrated as you take it down, because otherwise you will pull out extra color. Wipe and then just a tiny brush stroke like that. Then you have a much deeper but smooth transition. Now there's this thing that they also do with flowers and even with loose flowers is putting down a deep color undertone, even for watercolor, like they would for acrylics, or not acrylics so much, oil colors. And in that case, it's in order to create a shadow before painting the true color of that flower. Sometimes for trees also. So you would use a blue. Here now there's too much liquid, but I'm hazarding this. Not advisable really. I'll just pick this excess color on the edge and then come back into it with a deeper shade. So for today's exercise, even if your colors are not matching, I'm cool with that. But I want you to just play with consistency and see how smooth you can paint the glass. For 1 second, I'm just gonna Okay, how's it going? Okay, how are your peonies looking, everyone? Oh, nice. Very nice, Ritika. I think it's going well. Ritu is also looking good. I like that. Good. Okay, cautious. Very good. Hurry, wait, I can't hear anyone. Something wrong with my audio. Something wrong with my audio. Okay, can someone speak?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. I think
Ah,
even
I think
earlier
you're
Ritu was trying to,
gone
yeah.
off in between.
oh, okay, okay. Oh, wait a minute. I want to change my. Ah, okay, yeah. Oh, very nice. Very
Beautiful.
nice. Then. Lovely.
Susan, show nicely. One sec.
Wait, let
Very
me.
pretty. Very pretty.
Nice.
Great fun.
So now all the other flowers that I've shared with you on the group, they are also similar. That the one which I think is pea flower, that is the same. And I thought there were some orchids also that came by mistake. So the orchids haven't come. Okay, I'm gonna add some orchids. So that you can practice more of these. Okay, so I guess that's it. How are you all happy with the flowers?
Yes.
Yes, very happy. Thank you, Aditi.
Okay.
Finally, the elusive.
Peonies.
That I made this on my own,
Ah,
Very nice.
nice.
Very
straight
beautiful.
with the pen, no pencil.
Very nice.
So now I'll paint it that loose style.
Yeah, that looks
Yeah.
very nice also.
Yeah.
Super. All right. Chalo, I shall see you next week. And next week we're going to make graphic flowers. So I'll look for some flowers like a hibiscus or something like that. Any flower can be converted into a graphic. So we'll make it that way. So it's going to be mostly line art. Okay. All right. Okay. See
Perfect.
you then. Bye bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Aditi. Bye.
You.